right, thanks. And could Alec Murdaugh get another trial for his murder convictions? The South Carolina Attorney General has 9 days to respond to a motion.
And he faces 2 life sentences for killing his wife and son. The Murdaugh defense team says the clerk of court tried to sway the jury.
Yeah, Fox Carolina's Grace Runkel joins us live in studio with more on the woman now at the center of controversy.
Well, when we were in Walterboro covering the trial, we saw the Colleton County Clerk of Court, Rebecca Hill, pretty much every single day. But after the defense filed a motion alleging Hill told jurors not to believe Murdaugh's testimony, we wanted to find out more about how she got the job. Here's what we found. Hill worked as a state court reporter for 12 years, so that basically means she kept transcripts of official court proceedings. In March 2020, she decided to run for the Colleton County Clerk of Court. It was a tight race, but she won with 56% of the votes. About 2 years after she was elected, the Attorney General announced the Murdaugh trial would take place at the Colleton County Courthouse. Hill is serving a 4-year term, so she could decide to run again next year. Now, Hill released a book about her experience during the 6-week trial. Murdaugh's lawyers say that jurors actually came forward with the allegations about Hill after the book was published. We're reading through it, and at 5, we'll highlight some key passages. Live in the studio, Grace Runkel, Fox Carolina News.